Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you 4 Dump and Go Crockpot recipes. I love using my crockpot, especially this time of year. These recipes are easy to make and they're all delicious. Now let's go ahead and get started. This first recipe is crockpot chicken and gnocchi. I started out in my slow cooker. I sprayed it with nonstick spray and added in 3 boneless skinless chicken breasts, along with 2 cans of cream of chicken soup. And this recipe comes from Kat over at Southern Farming Kitchen, and she uses a cream of chicken and a cream of mushroom, but I just used 2 cream of chickens. And she also says to fill those empty cans up with water and add that in also. Next, I'm adding 3 teaspoons of better than bouillon chicken paste, or you can use the cubes. I added in 1 tablespoon of the Kinder's garlic and herb seasoning. You don't add the gnocchi in at this point. I didn't even bother to stir mine, but I covered it and set it to cook on high for 5 hours. My crock pot cooks pretty quick, so after about 3.5 hours, my chicken was cooked through. So I removed it to a separate plate to shred, and this chicken was so tender it was just falling apart. So I did not even bother to shred it. I usually use my hand mixer to do that, but I just used my tongs and broke it up that way. Then I added it back into my slow cooker. I gave it a little stir. Then I added in 2 16-ounce packages of gnocchi. And just try to break them up as you add them in, because these do tend to stick together. So the gnocchi is kind of taking the place of dumplings here. And if you're in the mood for some good old chicken and dumplings, this is the easy way to do it. I gave it a really good stir to make sure they were all broke apart and everything was mixed together. I covered it and let it continue to cook for only about 30 more minutes until that gnocchi was done and tender. This is like the ultimate comfort food meal. And I'll be sure to link Kat's video in my description box. She shares some of the best recipes, and this one was absolutely delicious. This was actually my first time trying this recipe, and I'm so glad I did. My family loved this, and I really think you will too. It's the perfect recipe to make for this time of year. This next one is beef tips and gravy. I started out in a medium-sized bowl. I added in 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. Also add in just 1 packet of the brown gravy mix. I added in 2 by accident, but it still turned out delicious. Now add in half a teaspoon of minced garlic, 1 cup of beef broth, and 1 diced onion. Whisk until everything is well combined, then set that mixture to the side. Now over to the slow cooker, I've added 2 pounds of beef stew meat. Then I poured in that gravy mixture. Now cover this, and I set it to cook on low for 7 hours. After about 7 hours, my house smelled so good. I gave it a really good stir. Now I'm going to make a cornstarch slurry to thicken up that gravy. To do that, I combined 2 tablespoons of water and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Stir that until it's all mixed together and there are no more lumps. Now add that right on into your slow cooker. Give that a really good stir. Then you're going to cover this back up and let it continue to cook for about 10 more minutes, or until that gravy thickens. This recipe has so much flavor and it is delicious. I really hope you give this one a try. And if you do, I'm pretty sure you'll be so glad you did. And I served this over rice and had green beans on the side. I mean, look at that. It just looks so good. And it was super easy to make. This is a perfect meal to throw in the crock pot before you go to work, and then dinner is ready when you get home. This recipe is a super easy way to make orange chicken. I'm going to start by breading the chicken a little. So to do that, in a large bowl, I added in a heaping 1/4 of a cup of cornstarch and a little salt and pepper. I stirred it up a little, then I added in 1½ pounds of boneless, skinless chicken that I cut into bite-sized pieces. Now toss that around until all that chicken is covered in that cornstarch mixture. And this way, that delicious sauce we're about to make has something to stick to. Now I'm going to make the orange sauce, and I just did that in my large measuring cup. I added in 1/2 cup of honey barbecue sauce. Also 1 cup of orange marmalade. And this is what makes this recipe delicious. And I also added in 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I'm switching out my spoon for the whisk. Now mix it until everything is well combined. Now I'm taking this sauce over to the slow cooker. I've already sprayed it with nonstick spray. I added in 2 tablespoons of oil. Go ahead and dump in all that chicken. Spread it out a little so it cooks evenly. Then pour over that yummy orange sauce. I just tried to drizzle it to evenly distribute it over everything. Now cover this, and I set it to cook on low for 6 hours. When it was done and that chicken was cooked through, I gave it a really good stir. Then this dinner was ready to serve. This recipe was so easy to throw together, and it is one of my family's favorites. I like to serve this over rice, and I topped it with a little sprinkle of sesame seeds. And we love egg rolls, so I threw some of those in the air fryer to go along with it. This last recipe is a delicious cheeseburger soup. In my crock pot, I'm adding in 3 cups of chicken broth, and I use this better than bouillon paste. It hasn't completely dissolved yet, but it'll dissolve as it cooks. Now I'm going to add in 4 cups of frozen diced hash browns. And for the seasonings, I'm adding 1 teaspoon of parsley, a teaspoon of basil, and about 1/4 of a teaspoon of pepper. I like to wait to the end to add salt, because I can always add some in later. Now I'm adding in 1 can of cream of onion soup, a can of cream of celery, 1 can of evaporated milk, and a can of sliced carrots, and those are drained. You don't have to do this, but I did stick my knife down into the can to chop them up into smaller pieces. Now you're going to give all that a really good stir. Then you're going to cover this and set it to cook on low for 6 hours. Or you can cook it on high for 3 to 4 hours. When the soup has about 45 minutes remaining, I'm going to start on the ground beef. I've got 1 pound of ground beef here, and I just cooked that until it was cooked through. I drained the grease. Now I'm heading back over to the crock pot. It had been cooking on low for about 5½ hours at this point. I gave it a really good stir. Now I'm adding in that cooked ground beef. I stirred that in. I'm also adding in 16 ounces of the cubed Velveeta cheese. And you could cut back on the cheese a little and it would still be delicious. And lastly, I added in about 1/4 of a cup of sour cream. Now stir that and cover it and let it continue to cook for about 30 more minutes or until that cheese is completely melted. This soup is seriously so easy to make. And if it's too thick for you, you can always add in a little extra broth, just to thin it out some. Oh, and I had also made my husband some of these no-bake chocolate oatmeal cookies on this night. These are his absolute favorite. Okay, back to the soup. Doesn't that look delicious? This is another one of my family's favorite recipes. I topped it with sour cream and crumbled bacon. And here was our yummy dessert for that night. They are so good. I really hope you enjoyed this video. You may also like these. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos, and I will see you in the next one.